He shot his wife in the back of her head, and cut his children's throats from ear to ear. These are the FBI's top 10 most wanted fugitives. Santiago Medeiros, born June 5, 1991, is an American fugitive who was added to the FBI 10 most wanted fugitives list on September 25, 2017. He is wanted for 2 murders in Washington in 2010. Medeiros was the 515th fugitive to be placed on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. The FBI offers a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to his capture. Medeiros was born on June 5, 1991 and is an alleged murderer and gang member from the state of Washington. He was just an 18-year-old teenager when he allegedly killed and wounded multiple people on different occasions in Washington in 2010. He is a member of the East Side Los Sureños (ELS) gang, a violent gang based in Washington. Medeiros is described as Hispanic, 5 feet 10 and 140 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He has a tattoo of the letter S on his left shoulder and a tattoo of the letter E on his right shoulder. He speaks fluent English and Spanish. On February 7, 2010, Medeiros and 6 other gang members from the ELS were out driving a stolen van through Tacoma, Washington in search for rival gang members. They were after the gang in retaliation for a shooting that had occurred 2 days earlier in which an ELS member was badly wounded. They came across 20-year-old Camille Love and her brother 19-year-old Josh Love. Camille was driving while Josh was sat in the passenger seat of the vehicle. They had just left a family dinner and were driving to a friend's house. The siblings were stopped at a traffic light and were inside a red car. Josh was wearing a red coat, and red was the color associated with the rival gang. Mistaking Josh for a rival gang member, Medeiros and at least one other gang member opened fire into the vehicle. They fatally shot Camille and seriously wounded Josh. Josh was shot twice and was hit in the arm and on his side. Neither Josh or Camille were associated with any gang. On March 25, 2010, Medeiros and another gang member ransacked a car in an apparent robbery in a South Tacoma alley. They suspected the owner of the car owed the gang money. The duo then got into a fight with 3 other men who confronted them. Medeiros shot at the group of people as he fled on foot and fatally shot 25-year-old Saul Lucas Alfonso. Lucas Alfonso again was not associated with any gang. The leader of the East Side Los Sureños, Juan Zuniga Gonzalez, was blamed for the murders. The death of Love led to a crackdown from the Tacoma Police Department against the ELS. Unhappy with Zuniga's leadership and the unwanted attention from Love's murder, 4 members of the gang who were in prison at the time ordered the murder of Zuniga Gonzalez. On May 12, 2010, Zuniga Gonzalez was murdered at his home in Tacoma. 15-year-old Natalie Tolifoa and 17-year-old Juan Ortiz drove to Zuniga's home. Ortiz fatally shot Zuniga in the back of the head in his garage. Both suspects then fled to Mexico after the assassination. Tolifoa was captured in 2012 and Ortiz was arrested in Mexico City in August 2016. Both were extradited from Mexico to stand trial for the murder. Eugene K. Palmer, born April 4, 1939, is an American fugitive who was added to the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list on May 29, 2019. He is wanted for allegedly shooting and killing his daughter-in-law, Tammy Palmer, on September 24, 2012, in Stony Point, New York. Palmer is the 523rd and most recent fugitive to be placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. The FBI is offering a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to his capture. Eugene Palmer's son, John Palmer, was married to Tammy Palmer, and the couple lived together with their 2 children at a property owned by Eugene in Stony Point, New York. Eugene lived next door to the couple. The relationship between John and Tammy slowly began to deteriorate and the couple eventually started seeing other people. Tammy filed for a restraining order against John, which enraged Eugene. Tammy also threatened to file for divorce and sue for the land belonging to Eugene. Authorities say this started a feud between Eugene and Tammy and caused them to have a heated argument. On the morning of Monday, September 24, 2012, Tammy walked her 2 children to catch the school bus. It is believed Eugene Palmer was hiding in the woods waiting to ambush her when she returned home. As Tammy walked back towards her home, Palmer allegedly began shooting at her with a shotgun from a distance. The first shot struck her in the arm, the second shot missed, but the third shot, delivered at close range, hit her in the chest and proved fatal. After the shooting, Palmer fled the scene in a pickup truck, which was later found abandoned near Harriman State Park in Rockland County. Palmer then fled into the park on foot. Police called in search dogs, which followed Palmer's scent to a campground in the woods. The scent was then lost, however. Despite multiple searches, no body or trace of Palmer has been found, leading authorities to believe Palmer is still alive. Family members of Palmer believe he died in the park, but Haverstraw police said no body was ever found during multiple searches of the area. A federal arrest warrant was issued for Palmer on June 10, 2013. Palmer depends on medications for a heart condition and diabetes. He is described as an experienced hunter, fisher, hiker and outdoorsman, who is also a car enthusiast. He has a deformed left thumb. Authorities believe Palmer might be hiding in Florida or upstate New York where he has relatives. Alexis Flores, born July 18, 1975, is a Honduran fugitive wanted for the kidnapping, rape, and murder of 5-year-old Ariana de Jesus in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in 2000. Flores is the 487th fugitive to be placed on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. Flores was born in Honduras in 1975, although he has used dates of birth ranging from 1975 to 1982. Flores has claimed he received a large surgical scar on his neck as a result of an injury sustained in Hurricane Mitch in Honduras in 1998. In the summer of 2000, an itinerant homeless drifter known as Carlos, or Carlo, had been given shelter, clothing and work as a handyman by Hunting Park, Philadelphia, resident Jorge Contreras. On August 3, 5 days after she had been reported missing, the body of 5-year-old Ariana de Jesus was found in the basement of an empty apartment building where Carlos is believed to have stayed. She had been sexually assaulted, strangled and wrapped in a trash bag. A t-shirt bearing a distinct political logo was found near Ariana's body with her blood on it. When police questioned Contreras about the shirt, he recognized it as one of the articles of clothing he had lent to Carlos, who had not been seen in the area since the girl was reported missing. Carlos then became wanted for questioning and a sketch of him was profiled on America's Most Wanted. Alexis Flores, an illegal immigrant, was arrested for shoplifting in Arizona in 2002. 2 years later, police came to Flores' residence in response to a noise complaint. After giving fraudulent identity documents to police, Flores was arrested for possession of a forgery device, a felony in Arizona. When he was arrested, Flores had a welcoming demeanor and was friendly. Upon entering his apartment for further investigation, officers noticed pornography spread out across the floors. Flores told immigration officials that he had lived in Schaumburg, Illinois, prior to living in Phoenix. He was incarcerated for 60 days and deported to Honduras after his release in June 2005. In 2006, Flores' DNA sample taken in Arizona was added to the Combined DNA Index system. In March 2007, his DNA sample positively matched to the DNA found at the crime scene in Philadelphia. It has been determined that Carlos and Flores are the same person. On March 22, 2007, a local arrest warrant was obtained in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and Flores was charged with murder and various other felonies. On the same date, a federal arrest warrant for Flores was obtained in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, and he was charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Flores was added to the FBI's top 10 most wanted fugitives list on June 2, 2007. He replaced Shante Henderson on the list. There is a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading directly to Flores' capture offered by the FBI. He is also the subject of an Interpol Red Notice. He is considered armed and extremely dangerous. Flores is fluent in Spanish and English and is believed to be either in his native Honduras, or to have returned to the United States. Jason Derek Brown, born July 1, 1969, is an American fugitive wanted for first-degree murder and armed robbery in Phoenix, Arizona. On November 29, 2004, Brown allegedly shot and killed an armored car guard outside a movie theater and then fled with the money. On December 8, 2007, he was named by the FBI as the 489th fugitive to be placed on its 10 most wanted list. He is considered armed and extremely dangerous. Brown was born in Los Angeles, California, on July 1, 1969 to David John Brown Sr. He attended Laguna Beach High School. Brown speaks fluent French and has a master's degree in international business. He served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Paris from 1988 to 1990. Between 1990 and 2004, he resided at several places in Orange County, California, to include Dana Point and the Corona Del Mar neighborhood of Newport Beach. Brown owned 2 businesses, Toys Unlimited and On the Doorstep Advertising, both of which he ran out of his home in Salt Lake City, Utah. He had been employed as a toy salesman and golf equipment importer to support his luxurious lifestyle and expensive tastes in such things as cars, motorbikes, and boats. Brown portrayed himself as a wealthy man, despite the fact that by 2004 he had defaulted on at least one large loan and had racked up tens of thousands of dollars in debt. In November 2004, days after having bought a .45 caliber Glock pistol, Brown took a firearms instruction course at Totally Awesome Guns and Range in Salt Lake City. He had passed a background check and submitted his fingerprints that were sent to state and federal authorities. Brown's instructor, Clark A. Pashian, described him as an obnoxious student and inexperienced with firearms. During a practice shooting, Brown accidentally fired a round into a truck, for which he later paid its owner approximately $1,300 in damages. At this time, Brown was living in an Ahwatukee, Arizona, hotel near an AMC movie theater. He was captured on surveillance tape having a conversation with another man in the hotel lobby. The man is considered to be a possible accomplice or witness, however, his identity remains unknown. On November 29, 2004, Robert Keith Palomares, a 24-year-old armored car guard, was carrying the weekend deposits outside the AMC Theater at 4915 East Ray Road in Phoenix. At approximately 10 a.m., a hooded gunman ambushed and shot Palomares with a .45 caliber semi-automatic Glock. 5 out of 6 bullets fired struck Palomares in the head. Although armed, Palomares had no time to defend himself. The gunman took a money bag containing $56,000 in cash, ran into a nearby alley, and fled the scene on a bicycle. Palomares was transported to Good Samaritan Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Witnesses initially described the shooter as being anywhere from 25 to 30 years old and Hispanic. However, authorities recovered the bicycle and lifted fingerprints from it that instead linked Brown to the ambush murder. Accordingly, he was soon considered the prime suspect in the case. And an arrest warrant was issued on December 4 by Maricopa County Superior Court charging Brown with first-degree murder and armed robbery. Brown was later also charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. In a federal arrest warrant issued on December 6 by the United States District Court for the District of Arizona. Investigators have considered Brown's desperate financial situation as a possible motive. Soon after being identified as a suspect, Brown fled from Arizona to Henderson, Nevada. He continued on to Las Vegas where he swapped his BMW for a black Cadillac Escalade he had in storage. Then he drove to Orange County, California, where he stayed with some relatives until December 6, 2004, when FBI agents carrying out an arrest warrant missed him by 2 hours. Brown apparently used his credit card at a gas station in South Orange County, traveled to San Diego near the Mexican border and then all the way to Portland, Oregon. After this, the FBI states that Brown became a ghost and went completely off the grid. On January 16, 2005, authorities discovered his abandoned Cadillac left in a long-term parking lot at the Portland International Airport. While in Portland, the fugitive mailed a package with clothes and golf equipment to his brother, David John Brown II of San Diego. On April 20, 2005, David Brown was indicted for obstruction of justice. The indictment claimed that he tampered with evidence when he deep-cleaned his brother Jason's BMW in early December, after having driven the vehicle to California from a Las Vegas storage facility. By 2005 the FBI had received over 200 leads in the case, with the greater part of them being outside Arizona and with dozens coming outside the United States, including possible sightings in Canada. Due to his California surfer dude appearance and ability to blend into crowds, the FBI has had more leads on Brown than anyone else on its 10 most wanted list, with the majority of them proving false leads. Reporters have noted his striking resemblance to actor Sean Penn, one of Penn's body doubles, was once arrested by authorities when they mistook him for Brown. Investigators believe that Brown may be hiding in plain sight among the Mormon community under an assumed identity, living with a partner who might not know his real identity, or that he has fled the country and could be living in France or Thailand. On December 8, 2007, Brown was named by the FBI as the 489th fugitive to be placed on its 10 most wanted list. The FBI is offering a reward of up to $200,000 for information leading to his capture. The reward was doubled on March 25, 2013. The most recent confirmed sighting came in August 2008, near the Hogle Zoo in Salt Lake City. An acquaintance of Brown recognized him when they were both stopped at a traffic light. Upon their mutual recognition, Brown promptly accelerated through the stoplight and sped away. The witness shared his sighting with the authorities, according to him. Brown had a deeper tan and had longer hair compared to the 2004 photograph on his wanted poster. Yasser Abdel said, born January 27, 1957, is a fugitive on the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. An Egyptian resident of the United States, he is wanted for the murder of his 2 teenage daughters in Irving, Texas. Said, who was very controlling over his family, was believed to have felt that his daughters Amina and Sarah dishonored the family by refusing to adhere to the standards of traditional Egyptian cultural behavior. On January 1, 2008, he lured them into his taxicab on the pretense of taking them out to eat, and fatally shot them in the cab. Said has escaped police capture, and remains at large. Yasser married Patricia Tissy Owens in February 1987 when he was 30 and she was 15. Patricia later alleged that Yasser abused her during their marriage. Amina was born in 1989, and Sarah was born in 1990. They also had a son named Islam Said born in 1988. And Yasser also had another daughter with another woman born in 1987. After Christmas, Amina and Sarah ran away with their mother Patricia to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Amina's boyfriend had relatives. Patricia had allegedly told her daughters that December 31 was her mother's death anniversary and that she wanted to drive to East Texas to put flowers on her grave, later telling them they would return to Yasser. Sarah reluctantly went, while Amina refused. Patricia drove to Amina's friend's house and pounded on the door, starting an argument with Amina to try and convince her to return to Yasser. Amina still refused to go. Patricia insisted and stood unmoved in the doorway, saying that her father had forgiven her and would like the girls to return home. On January 1, 2008, Yasser took Amina and Sarah to his taxi cab, kissed them, and told them he was taking them out to eat. Patricia initially wanted to come along, but Yasser told her that he wanted to talk to the girls himself. He drove them both to Irving, where he shot both girls to death in the taxi cab. Amina died instantly, while Sarah managed to call 911 before she died, screaming "Help, my dad shot me. I'm dying, I'm dying." Yasser's taxi was soon discovered by another cab driver outside a hotel. Following the murders, Yasser disappeared, although there is no record of him flying to Egypt. The FBI believes that Yasser may now be driving a cab in New York City. A cab driver reported that he may have seen Yasser driving a cab in Newark Airport. Some people have also allegedly seen Yasser in New York City driving a light-colored or champagne-colored older Mercedes and working as a cab driver in 2014, and the FBI was informed of this. On December 4, 2014, Yasser was added to the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list with a $100,000 reward with any information leading to the arrest of Yasser. Arnaldo Jimenez, born February 19, 1982, is an American fugitive who was added to the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list on May 8, 2019. He is wanted for the May 2012 murder of his wife, Estrella Carrera, who was found dead in a bathtub at her apartment in Burbank, Illinois. Jimenez was the 522nd fugitive to be placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. The FBI offers a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to his capture. Arnaldo Jimenez and Estrella Carrera got married on May 11, 2012, at City Hall in Chicago. Carrera had 2 children, one 9-year-old daughter from a previous relationship, and a 2-year-old son with Jimenez. The couple had dinner with family and friends that night and then headed to a nightclub, which they left around 4 a.m. on the morning of May 12. It is believed that on the way home the couple got into a heated argument in Jimenez's black 2006 4-door Maserati. Jimenez allegedly fatally stabbed Carrera multiple times in his car and dragged her body into her apartment. Carrera's body was dumped in the bathtub at her apartment, and she was still wearing the same silver dress she wore to her wedding. Carrera was meant to pick up her children on May 12 from family members, but she never showed up. Her family members then reported her missing to police. Her dead body was found inside her apartment on the afternoon of May 13. Police confirmed there was no sign of a forced entry. Jimenez had also disappeared and his car was nowhere to be found. Investigators began tracking Jimenez and found that on May 12 he had used his cell phone in Chicago, then southern Illinois. It was later used in Memphis, Tennessee, and then in Arkansas. On May 13 he had made calls from Houston and then in Hidalgo, Mexico. In September 2012, police made a drug arrest on Jimenez's brother, Humberto Jimenez. During the search of his property, police discovered Jimenez's black Maserati in the garage. Blood was found inside the car, leading police to the conclusion that Jimenez had killed Carrera in his car and dragged her body into the bathtub inside her apartment. Police believe Humberto drove Arnaldo to Mexico in his car and left him there. Authorities believe Jimenez is still hiding in Durango, Mexico, possibly in the area of Santiago Papisquiaro. He may also be hiding in Reynosa, Tamaulipas, Mexico. Alejandro Rosales Castillo, born November 26, 1998, is an American fugitive who was added to the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list on October 24, 2017. He is wanted for the August 2016 murder of True Kwan Sandy Leela in Charlotte, North Carolina. Castillo was the 516th fugitive to be placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. The FBI offers a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to his capture. Castillo was born on November 26, 1998 in Arizona. He speaks fluent English and Spanish. In 2016, a then 17-year-old Castillo worked at a Shomar's restaurant in Charlotte, North Carolina and was co-workers with 23-year-old True Kwan Sandy Leela. The two reportedly briefly dated and at some point Leela had lent Castillo some money which he never paid back to her. Another co-worker of theirs was 19-year-old Amia Feaster, who was Castillo's new girlfriend after his split from Leela. On August 9, 2016, Castillo texted Leela saying that he would like to repay her the money she had previously loaned him. Leela agreed to meet Castillo at a quick trip located on Eastway Drive in Charlotte. Castillo was picked up that afternoon by Feaster, who collected him in her red Dodge Caliber and took him to the meeting. Leela was last seen alive at the quick trip where she agreed to meet Castillo. It is believed that instead of repaying her, Castillo forced Leela to withdraw all the money from her bank account, possibly with a gun. According to Leela's uncle, her bank statements show that she withdrew $1,000 from an ATM. After this withdrawal there was no money left in her bank account. Investigators believe that Castillo then drove Leela to a wooded area in Cabarrus County where he shot her once in the head, killing her. Her body was then dumped in a ravine. Castillo and Feaster then fled in Leela's black four-door 2003 Toyota Corolla. After murdering Leela, Castillo and Feaster drove from North Carolina to Phoenix, Arizona. They parked Leela's car at a bus shelter in Phoenix where it was later found abandoned on August 15. Castillo and Feaster then made their way to Nogales, Arizona where they crossed the border into Mexico. Surveillance footage captured images of Castillo crossing the border into Mexico. He has not been seen since. Investigators believe that Castillo is still hiding in Mexico, possibly in the cities of San Francisco de los Romo or Pabellón de Arteaga in the state of Aguascalientes. He may also be hiding in the states of Guanajuato or Veracruz. Bhadreshkumar Patel, born May 15, 1990, is an Indian fugitive wanted for killing his wife in a Dunkin' Donuts store at Hanover, Maryland, in the United States on April 12, 2015. He was added to the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list on April 18, 2017. Patel was the 514th fugitive to be placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. He was last seen at Pennsylvania Station near his hotel in Newark, New Jersey. Patel was born on May 15, 1990, in Viramgam, Gujarat, India. By 2015, he was married to his wife, Palak, and the couple were traveling together to visit relatives in the United States. Patel was 24 at the time while Palak was 21. On the night of April 12, 2015, Patel and Palak were working a night shift at a Dunkin' Donuts in Hanover, Maryland. The store was owned by a relative of Patel whom the couple were visiting. Surveillance footage showed Palak and Patel walking together in the kitchen at around 9:30 p.m. before disappearing out of view behind some racks. Moments later, Patel re-emerged without his wife, turned off an oven, and left the store. The body of 21-year-old Palak Patel was found later that night. She had been beaten to death and stabbed multiple times with a large kitchen knife. Investigators believe the couple had an argument, with Palak wanting to return to India and Patel wishing to remain in the U.S. instead. Customers arriving at the Dunkin' Donuts store grew concerned when no employees came to serve them. A police officer who happened to be near the store was approached by concerned customers and checked out the scene. Upon searching the store, the officer found Palak's body. Police then checked the surveillance video and realized the killer was Patel, who had vanished. Patel was not identified as the suspect until over an hour after the murder, giving him time to escape. After murdering Palak, Patel fled the store and returned to his nearby apartment on foot. He took some personal items, then got a cab to a hotel near an airport in Newark, New Jersey. The taxi driver reported that Patel was very calm during the journey. He checked into a hotel in Newark and was seen on surveillance video at the counter paying in cash for a room. He checked out the following morning. Patel was last seen on the morning of April 13, 2015, around 10 a.m. at Newark Penn Station in New Jersey. He took a hotel shuttle to the station and has not been seen since. Authorities believe Patel could have fled the country or could be hiding with relatives. Patel had a visa to be in the U.S., but it had expired by the time he carried out the murder. A report stated that because of this there was no indication he was able to legally leave the country. An investigation with Pollock's family into the murder revealed that the last conversation she had with them was about wishing to return home to India. This call was made moments before Pollock was murdered by her husband and was overheard by him. This is the reason that police believe Patel murdered his wife. Patel has connections in Canada, India, New Jersey, Kentucky, Georgia, and Illinois. A reward of up to $100,000 is available for information that leads to his whereabouts. Robert William Fisher, born April 13, 1961, is an American fugitive wanted for allegedly killing his wife and 2 children, and blowing up the house in which they lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, on April 10, 2001. He was named by the FBI as the 475th fugitive to be placed on the list of FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives on June 29, 2002. Robert William Fisher was born in Brooklyn, New York, in 1961 to William Fisher, a banker, and Jan Howell. He has 2 sisters with whom he attended Saguaro High School in Tucson, Arizona. His parents divorced in 1976, when Fisher was 15 years of age. According to friends and relatives, the divorce was very turbulent and unsettling, leaving long-lasting effects on him. He reportedly spoke of it with co-workers at Mayo Clinic Hospital and once confided to an associate that his life would have been different had his mother not left the family. Fisher, a U.S. Navy veteran, married Mary Cooper in 1987. He has worked as a surgical catheter technician, respiratory therapist, and firefighter, and is an avid outdoorsman, hunter, and fisherman. Fisher was described as a cruel and distant control freak of a father who was awkward with his children, but who tried to hold on to an image as a devoted family man. His mother-in-law, Ginny Cooper, told investigators that Fisher didn't socialize often with family because of a fear of getting too close to people and losing them. Fisher's mother told investigators that she had been a Yasser wife who did not stand up to her husband. She added that she saw similar dynamics early in her son's marriage to Mary and that she had spoken to her daughter-in-law about her concerns. A close friend of Fisher stated that his family bore a striking resemblance to that of his childhood. On the morning of April 10, 2001, Mary was shot in the back of the head and her children's throats were slashed from ear to ear in the hours before their house exploded at 8:42 a.m. Firefighters were immediately alerted to the explosion, which was strong enough to collapse the front brick wall and rattle the frames of neighboring houses for 1/2 mile, 800 meters, in all directions. Firefighters kept the 20-foot-high, 6 meters, blaze from spreading to other homes. A series of smaller secondary explosions, believed to be caused by either rifle ammunition or paint cans, forced them to keep their distance. One suffered minor injuries to his leg when he lost his balance and fell near the burning house. The gas line from the back of the house's furnace had been pulled out in an attempt to conceal evidence of the homicides. The accumulating gas was later ignited by a candle that Fisher had allegedly lit, waiting for the gas to accumulate and descend to the flame hours after being lit. This delayed fuse would have given Fisher an approximate 10-hour head start in his successful attempt to evade law enforcement. The burned bodies of a woman and 2 children were found lying in bed in the remains of the burned-out house. They were identified as Mary, age 38, and her 2 children, Brittany, age 12, and Bobby, age 10. Investigators theorized that Fisher murdered his family because he felt threatened by Mary's intent to divorce him, and didn't want his children to go through what he did as a child. Rafael Caro Quintero, born October 3, 1952, is a Mexican drug trafficker who co-founded the now disintegrated Guadalajara cartel with Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo and other drug traffickers in the 1970s. He is the brother of fellow drug trafficker Miguel Caro Quintero, the founder and former leader of the defunct Sonora cartel. Having formed the Guadalajara cartel in the 1970s, Caro Quintero worked with Gallardo, Ernesto Fonseca Carrillo, and Pedro Aviles Perez by shipping large quantities of marijuana to the United States from Mexico. He was responsible for the kidnapping and murder of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, agent Enrique Kiki Camarena, Camarena's pilot Alfredo Zavala Avalar, the American writer John Clay Walker, and dentistry student Alberto Radilate in 1985. After the murders, Caro Quintero fled to Costa Rica but was later arrested and extradited back to Mexico, where he was sentenced to 40 years in prison for murder. Following his arrest, the Guadalajara cartel disintegrated, and its leaders were incorporated into the Tijuana cartel, Sinaloa cartel, and Juarez cartel. Caro Quintero was freed from jail on August 9, 2013, after a state court concluded that he had been tried improperly. However, amid pressure from the federal government of the United States to re-arrest him, a Mexican federal court issued an arrest warrant against Caro Quintero on August 14. He remains at large, as a wanted fugitive in Mexico, the United States, and several other countries. The United States is offering a $20 million bounty for his arrest. Rafael Caro Quintero was born in the community of La Noria, Bhadreshkumar, Sinaloa, on October 3, 1952. His parents, Emilio Caro Payan and Hermelinda Quintero, had 12 children. He was the oldest son. His father worked in agriculture and grazing, and died when Caro Quintero was 14 years old. With his father's absence, he worked to take care of his family alongside his mother. At the age of 16, he left La Noria and settled in Caborca, Sonora, where he worked in livestock raising. 2 years later, he worked as a truck driver in Sinaloa. He also worked at a bean and corn plantation in Sinaloa before deciding to leave his home state to join the drug trade altogether in the neighboring state of Chihuahua. When he was a teenager, Caro Quintero allegedly began to grow marijuana on a low scale, at the ranch owned by his brother Jorge Luis. In less than 5 years, Caro Quintero managed to buy several other ranches in the surrounding areas and began to amass a fortune. He is said to have first worked for the drug traffickers Pedro Aviles Perez and Ernesto Fonseca Carrillo before forming the Guadalajara cartel with Miguel Ángel Felix Gallardo, Juan José Esparragosa Moreno, and others in the late 1970s. He has been cited as a pioneer of the drug trade in Mexico and has been described as one of the preeminent drug traffickers of his generation. Caro Quintero has been accused of ordering the abduction, torture, and murder of writer John Clay Walker and dentistry student Albert Radelaide on January 30, 1985. According to the allegations, the two Americans were dining in a Guadalajara restaurant when they encountered Caro Quintero and his men as they accidentally walked into one of Caro Quintero's private parties. Caro Quintero is alleged to have then ordered his men to seize the Americans and take them to a storeroom, where they were tortured with ice picks and interrogated. John Walker died on the scene from blunt force trauma to the head. Albert Radelaide was still alive when he was wrapped in tablecloths, taken to a park near the city, and buried. The men's bodies were found 6 months later buried at the San Isidro Mazatepec Park in Zapopan. The authorities believe that Caro Quintero had mistaken Walker and Radelaide for U.S. undercover agents. Caro Quintero has also been accused of involvement in the murder of U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, agent Enrique Kiki Camarena Salazar. In November 1984, the Mexican authorities raided a 1,000 hectares, 2,500 acres, ranch known as El Búfalo in the state of Chihuahua, owned by Caro Quintero. The authorities reportedly burned more than 10,000 tons of marijuana, totaling a loss of around $160 million. Camarena, who had been working undercover in Mexico, was said to be responsible for leading the authorities to the ranch. This allegedly prompted Caro Quintero and other high-ranking members of the Guadalajara cartel to seek revenge against the DEA and Camarena. In retribution, Camarena and his pilot Alfredo Zavala Avalar were kidnapped in Guadalajara on February 7, 1985, brutally tortured, and murdered. Caro Quintero then left Mexico on March 9, 1985 with his associates and his girlfriend Sara Cristina Cosio Gauna. Former Mexican Judicial Police Chief Armando Pavón Reyes, after receiving a $300,000 bribe, reportedly allowed Caro Quintero to flee from the airport in Guadalajara, in a private jet, to seek refuge in Costa Rica. The police chief was fired shortly afterward, and was charged with bribery and complicity in the Camarena murder. Locals from Badiraguato, Sinaloa, Caro Quintero's hometown, recall that Caro Quintero was a benefactor in the area in the 1980s. The town's mayor, Ángel Robles Banuelos, said in a 2013 interview that Caro Quintero financed the construction of a 40-kilometer-long highway in Badiraguato and helped electrify the area. The mayor recalled that before the highway was built, it would take days for people to travel in and out of Badiraguato. On April 4, 1985, Caro Quintero was arrested in his Alajuela, Costa Rica mansion, while sleeping, just half a mile from the Juan Santa Maria International Airport, and extradited to Mexico on charges of involvement in Camarena's murder. He was sentenced to 40 years for the murder of Camarena and other crimes. The U.S. also hopes to try Caro Quintero, and the DEA still has him listed as a wanted fugitive. Caro Quintero was first imprisoned at the Federal Social Readaptation Center No. 1 Maximum Security Prison Almoloya de Juarez, State of Mexico. Even though Caro Quintero was to face a maximum of 199 years in prison, Mexican law during that time did not allow for inmates to serve more than 40. In 2007, he was transferred to another maximum security prison, known as Puente Grande, in the state of Jalisco. In 2010, a federal judge granted him the right to be transferred to another prison in Jalisco. Caro Quintero's Guadalajara cartel fell apart in the early 1990s, and its remaining leaders went on to establish their own drug trafficking organizations. In Tijuana, a large family formed the Tijuana Cartel. In Chihuahua, a group controlled by Amado Carrillo Fuentes formed the Juarez Cartel. And the remaining faction moved to Sinaloa and formed the Sinaloa Cartel under the traffickers Joaquin El Chapo Guzman and Ismael El Mayo Zambada. Caro Quintero's brother Miguel Caro Quintero succeeded him and formed the Sonora Cartel, which branched out of the Sinaloa organization. The United States government believes that Caro Quintero ran his criminal empire behind bars through at least 6 of his family members, by creating a front that laundered millions of dollars through a gas station, construction company, shoe factory, restaurant, real estate development companies, among others. In the early hours of August 9, 2013, a tribunal ordered the immediate release of Caro Quintero after he had served 28 years in prison. After a motion by Rosalia Isabel Moreno Ruiz, who is a state judge and magistrate, the Jalisco State Court ruled that Caro Quintero was tried improperly in a federal courtroom for crimes that should have been treated at a state level. When Caro Quintero was given his 40-year sentence in the 1980s, he was convicted for murder, a state crime, and not for drug trafficking, a federal one. The magistrate ordered Caro Quintero's release after he had served time for other crimes he had committed throughout his reign as leader of the Guadalajara cartel. The release of Caro Quintero outraged the administration of U.S. President Barack Obama. The United States Department of Justice said they were extremely disappointed with the drug lord's release and stated that they were going to pursue Caro Quintero for pending charges in the United States. The Association of Former Federal Narcotics Agents expressed their disappointment, too, but stated that Caro Quintero's release was a result of the corruption that besets Mexico's judicial system. Mexico's Attorney General Jesus Murillo Karam also expressed his concern vis-à-vis the case, stating that he was worried about Caro Quintero's release and that he would investigate whether additional charges were pending in Mexico. On August 14, 2013, a federal court granted the Office of the General Prosecutor an arrest warrant against Caro Quintero after the United States government issued a petition to the Mexican government. Once the Mexican authorities rearrest Caro Quintero, the U.S. government has a maximum limit of 60 days to present a formal extradition request. Mexico's Attorney General clarified, however, that if arrested, Caro Quintero cannot be extradited to the United States for the murder of Camarena, because Mexican law prohibits criminals from being tried for the same crime in another country. U.S. lawyers, nonetheless, may argue that Caro Quintero's initial trial was illegitimate in the first place and that double jeopardy is not applicable. In order for Caro Quintero's extradition to be accepted by Mexico, the United States has to present other criminal charges and accept that he would not face the death penalty if convicted, because there are no laws for capital punishment in Mexico. Following Caro Quintero's release from prison on August 9, he has not been seen in public. There were rumors, however, that he had paid a visit to his hometown of Bhadreshkumar, Sinaloa. On March 7, 2018, the Mexican military used Black Hawk helicopters to search for Caro Quintero, dropping Marines into the mountain villages of La Noria, Las Juntas, Babunica, and Bamapa, all in the Bhadreshkumar municipality, but their hunt was unsuccessful. Caro Quintero is among the 15 most wanted fugitives of Interpol. If arrested abroad, he will be immediately extradited to Mexico. The U.S. government is offering a $20 million bounty for his capture. On July 24, 2016, while still on the run, Caro Quintero gave an interview to Proceso magazine. In this interview he claims he did not kill Enrique Camarena. He told the reporter that after his release from prison, he was visited, separately, by El Chapo Guzman and Ismael El Mayo Zambada. He claims he told them he did not want to return to the business. He also told the reporter that he was no longer a drug trafficker, and peace was the only thing he desired. Thanks for listening. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more content like this.